Foyle's War brought viewers into a world of quiet courage, difficult choices, and a Britain forever changed by war. Yet while those stories became timeless, the lives behind the performances continued to unfold in unexpected ways. 24 years later, some cast members remain active, others stepped away from the spotlight, and their journeys have been every bit as compelling as the series itself. Today, we revisit the cast in 2026 and discover what happened after the cameras stopped rolling. Paul Milner, he carefully lowers his gaze after witnessing another wartime tragedy he cannot fully stop. Feels like a man carrying invisible scars that grow heavier with every quiet act of duty in Foyle's War. The face behind that deeply restrained humanity was Anthony Howell. Born on February 27, 1971, in the Lake District, England, he was 31 when the series began, bringing understated emotional realism to one of British television's most quietly heartbreaking wartime characters. He had already built a respected career through theater and classical performance, developing a style rooted more in subtlety than spectacle. Yet one of the defining turns in his life came through balancing acting with writing and directing, stepping beyond performance to shape stories from behind the camera as well. His career reflected artistic discipline and privacy rather than mainstream fame. In 2026, at 54, Anthony Howell remains a presence that understood the deepest wounds on screen are often carried by the people who speak about them the least. Andrew Foyle, he stands in uniform trying to appear fearless while uncertainty quietly flickers across his face. Feels like a young man caught between duty, family expectation, and the terrifying realization that war changes people long before it ever kills them in Foyle's War. The face carrying all that restrained emotion was Julian Ovenden. Born Julian Mark Ovenden on November 29, 1976, in Sheffield, England, he was 26 when into the role, bringing elegance and emotional subtlety to the role during the early rise of his screen career. Before audiences embraced him in Downton Abbey and acclaimed stage musicals, he had already built a strong theatrical foundation rooted in music and classical performance. Yet behind the polished success, his life reflected the ongoing challenge of balancing international fame with a grounded family life away from celebrity culture. Now, at 49, he remains a presence that understood the quietest performances often leave the deepest emotional echoes behind. Adam Wainwright, the moment he pauses before speaking as though carefully measuring every word against the danger surrounding him, feels like a man who understands war destroys truth just as easily as it destroys lives in Foyle's War. The face behind that understated intensity was Daniel Wayman. Born in Newcastle upon Tyne, England, on June 13, 1977, he was 25 when he appeared on the series, bringing emotional precision and grounded realism to the role early in his television career. Before wider audiences discovered him through The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, he had already earned respect through theater and period dramas shaped by subtle, psychologically layered performances. Yet behind the growing recognition, his career reflected patience rather than sudden celebrity, steadily building through years of disciplined craft instead of chasing mainstream fame. Today, at 49, Daniel Wayman remains a presence that understood the most haunting characters are often the ones carrying fear in complete silence. Christopher Foyle, he quietly studies a crime scene with weary eyes while the world around him rushes toward war and moral collapse. Feels like a man holding on to decency simply because he refuses to let chaos decide what humanity should become in Foyle's War. The face carrying all that quiet moral gravity was Michael Kitchen. Born on October 31, 1948, in Leicester, England, he was 53 when into the film, delivering one of British television's most respected detective performances through extraordinary subtlety rather than theatricality. He had already built a remarkable career through films like Out of Africa and acclaimed stage work rooted in emotional precision. Yet behind the critical admiration, his life reflected unusual privacy, deliberately avoiding celebrity culture and interviews while remaining devoted to craft over fame. Currently, at 77, Michael Kitchen remains a presence that proved true strength on screen does not need volume, only conviction quietly carried through impossible times. Arthur Valentine, he nervously adjusts his posture before delivering another carefully chosen remark. Feels like a man constantly trying to preserve dignity in a world where war has made certainty almost impossible in Foyle's War. The face behind that understated humanity was Tim McMullen. Born Tim McMullen on June 13, 1963, in London, England, he was 39 when joined the series, bringing quiet emotional realism and subtle wit to the role during a career shaped largely through acclaimed theater work. He had already earned deep respect on the British stage through Shakespearean performances rooted in intelligence and emotional nuance. Yet unlike many actors chasing celebrity visibility, his life reflected a quieter artistic path centered on craft, family, and long-term creative discipline rather than mainstream fame. As of now, at 63, Tim McMullen remains a presence that understood some of the most memorable performances are the ones that never ask audiences to notice how difficult they truly are. Sir Alec Meyerson, he lowers his voice during a tense wartime conversation as though every sentence carries consequences far beyond the room itself. Feels like a man who understands power is often exercised most dangerously through calm restraint rather than open aggression in FOYLE'S war. The face behind that commanding presence was Rupert Van Sittert. Born Rupert Nicholas Van Sittert on February 10, 1958, in Cranley, Surrey, England, he was 44 when on the show, bringing remarkable gravitas and emotional subtlety to one of the show's most complex recurring figures. Before television audiences recognized him from Braveheart and numerous British period dramas, he had already built a respected career through theater and character work rooted in precision rather than spectacle. Yet behind the success, his life reflected the quieter discipline of an actor devoted more to longevity and craft than celebrity attention. Nowadays, at 68, Rupert Van Sittert remains a presence that understood the most unsettling power on screen often comes from people who never need to raise their voices at all. Glenville Harris, he hesitates before answering a seemingly simple question, with worry flickering briefly behind controlled manners. Feels like a man living in a wartime world where even ordinary conversations can quietly carry danger in FOYLE'S war. The face carrying all that restrained tension was Jeremy Swift. Born on June 27, 1960, in Stockton-on-Tees, England, he was 42 when he appeared on the series, bringing subtle emotional realism and quiet complexity to the role. He had already built a respected career through British theatre, television, and period dramas shaped by understated performances rather than flashy theatrics. Yet behind the later recognition, his career reflected years of patient perseverance in an industry where dependable character actors are often overlooked despite becoming essential to the emotional atmosphere of great stories. At present, at 65, Jeremy Swift remains a presence that understood some of the most human characters are the ones quietly trying to hold themselves together while history collapses around them. Rex Talbot, he pauses in silence before answering a simple question, with suspicion and buried fear flickering briefly across his face. Feels like a man living in wartime England where trust itself has become fragile and dangerously expensive in FOYLE'S war. The face behind that quietly haunted presence was Mark Umbers. Born on June 17, 1973, in Harrogate, North Yorkshire, England, he was 29 when into the role, bringing understated intensity and emotional intelligence to the role during the early rise of his television career. He had already built a reputation for portraying emotionally conflicted men with elegant subtlety rather than theatrical excess. Yet one of the defining turns in his career came through balancing theater and television without surrendering to the pressure of celebrity culture, choosing longevity and craft over constant exposure. This day, at 52, Mark Umbers remains a presence that understands the most compelling performances often come from what actors choose not to say out loud. Elizabeth Addis, the moment she lowers her voice in the middle of a tense wartime conversation while trying to hide fear behind composure, feels like someone carrying private emotional wounds in a world where even small mistakes could destroy lives in FOYLE'S war. The face behind that understated humanity was Hermione Gullyford. Born on September 20, 1975, in England, she was 27 when she appeared on the series, bringing emotional subtlety and natural realism to the role during the early years of her screen career. Long before audiences recognized her from British dramas and stage performances, she had already built a reputation for portraying thoughtful, emotionally layered women rather than conventional television archetypes. Her career reflected the quieter path of many respected British actors, balancing theater, television, and family life while remaining largely outside mainstream fame. These days, at 51, Hermione Gullyford remains a presence that understood some of the most powerful emotions on screen are often expressed through silence rather than spectacle. Thomas Kramer, the moment he lowers his voice and carefully studies the room before speaking, feels like a man shaped by wartime paranoia where fear and survival have become impossible to separate in FOYLE'S war. The face carrying all that haunted realism was David Horowitz. Born on August 11, 1945, in London, England, he was 57 when he appeared on the series in 2002, bringing emotional gravity and subtle tension refined through decades of theater, television, and film. He had already become one of Britain's most respected character actors through productions like 101 Dalmatians and countless stage performances rooted in classical training. Behind the consistency of his career, his life reflected the quieter reality of many working actors, balancing artistic dedication with the uncertainty of an ever-changing industry rather than chasing celebrity status. As of 2026, at 80, David Horowitz remains a presence that understood the most unsettling characters are often the ones carrying truths too painful to fully say aloud. Adam Wainwright, the moment he stands in uneasy silence after realizing the war has changed people far beyond what uniforms or medals can hide, feels like a young man watching innocence disappear one compromise at a time in FOYLE'S war. The face carrying all that quiet vulnerability was Max Brown. Born Max Brown on February 10, 1981, in Ilkley, West Yorkshire, England, he was 21 when he appeared on the series in 2002, bringing emotional subtlety and understated intensity to one of his earliest notable television roles. He had already begun building a career rooted in restrained performances rather than flashy stardom. Away from celebrity culture, his life reflected a quieter path centered on steady craft, family, and longevity within British television and theater. Today, at 45, Max Brown remains a presence that understood some of the most compelling characters are simply people trying to hold on to decency while the world around them slowly loses its own. Joe Farnetti, the moment he glances over his shoulder before speaking, with suspicion and survival instinct written across his face, feels like a man who understands wartime loyalty can disappear the second fear enters the room in FOYLE'S war. The face behind that tense unpredictability was Jonah Lawton. Born Jonah Lawton on August 19, 1973, in Jerusalem, Israel, he was 29 when he appeared on the series in 2002, bringing emotional realism and subtle intensity to one of his early dramatic television performances. Before audiences recognized him from international productions and crime dramas like The Killing, he had already built a reputation for portraying men balancing toughness with hidden emotional fragility. Away from celebrity culture, his career reflected steady craftsmanship across film, theater, and television rather than mainstream stardom. Now, at 52, Jonah Lawton remains a presence that understood the most believable characters are often the ones constantly watching the room before deciding whether it is safe to speak at all. Commander Charles Howard, he pauses before giving an order. His expression caught between military discipline and private doubt feels like a man carrying the invisible burden of decisions that wartime history will never fully forgive or understand in FOYLE'S war. The face behind that quietly commanding presence was Rupert Fraser. Born on March 12, 1947, in the United Kingdom, he was 55 when he appeared on the series in 2002, bringing understated gravitas shaped by decades of theater, historical drama, and classical British television. He had already built a respected career through productions like A Knight's Tale and numerous Shakespearean performances that refined his gift for portraying intelligent men weighed down by responsibility. Yet unlike many actors chasing celebrity recognition, his life reflected the quieter discipline of a performer devoted more to longevity and craft than fame itself. Currently, at 79, Rupert Fraser remains a presence that understood true authority on screen is often revealed not through power, but through the fatigue hidden behind composure. Hilda Pierce, she quietly folds her hands before answering a difficult question, feels like a woman who has spent years carrying grief and resilience so closely together that neither can exist without the other in FOYLE'S war. The face behind that haunting quietness was Ellie Haddington. Born on February 17, 1955, in Aberdeen, Scotland, she was 47 when she appeared on the series in 2002, bringing emotional realism and understated depth to one of the show's more human wartime figures. She had already built a respected acting career through theater and emotionally grounded television performances rather than celebrity visibility. Yet one of the defining strengths of her career became her ability to portray ordinary women carrying extraordinary emotional burdens without theatrical excess or sentimentality. Her life reflected artistic longevity, privacy, and dedication to craft over glamour. As of now, at 71, Ellie Haddington remains a presence that understood the deepest pain on screen is often expressed through the emotions people work hardest to keep hidden. Sergeant Rivers, he removes his cap and lowers his eyes after another grim wartime discovery, Feels like a man who has seen so much human loss that even routine duty now carries the weight of quiet mourning in Foyle's war. The face behind that grounded humanity was Geoffrey Freshwater. Born on November 16, 1924, in London, England, he was 78 when he appeared on the series in 2002, bringing remarkable authenticity shaped by decades inside British film, television, and theatre. He had already become a familiar face through productions like The Longest Day and countless classic British dramas. Yet behind the consistency of his career, his life reflected the resilience of a performer who quietly adapted through changing generations of entertainment without chasing celebrity fame. He passed away on February 10, 2016, at 91. Leaving behind a presence that understood the most believable authority on screen often came from people who carried real-life experience in their silence. Major John Kiefer, he calmly delivers orders while tension hangs heavily in the room. Feels like a man who has spent so long surrounded by war that emotion itself has become something dangerous to openly reveal in Foyle's war. The face behind that restrained intensity was J. Benedict. Born Warren J. Benedict on April 11, 1951, in Burbank, California, he was 51 when he appeared on the series in 2002, bringing gravitas shaped by decades of film, television, and stage experience in both America and Britain. Before audiences remembered him from Foyle's war, he had already appeared in major productions like Aliens and The Dark Knight Rises, often portraying men burdened by institutional power and moral conflict. Yet his later years carried heartbreaking reality when he became one of the first well-known actors in Britain to die from complications related to COVID-19. He passed away on April 4, 2020, at 68. Leaving behind a presence that understood the quietest authority on screen often hides the deepest fatigue underneath. Samantha Stewart, she grips the steering wheel while racing through blackout-darkened roads with determination hiding the fear in her eyes. Feels like a woman refusing to let wartime England harden the compassion still alive inside her in Foyle's war. The face behind that unforgettable resilience was Honeysuckle Weeks. Born Honeysuckle hero Susan Weeks on August 1, 1979, in Cardiff, Wales, she was 23 when the series began in 2002, bringing warmth, emotional depth, and quiet determination to one of British television's most beloved wartime characters. Before, she had already built a respected career through period dramas and classical stage training rooted in subtle emotional realism. Yet behind the success, her life later carried painful personal struggles involving stress, emotional health, and a brief disappearance from public life that reshaped her relationship with fame and privacy. Nowadays, at 46, Honeysuckle Weeks remains a presence that understood courage is often found not in fearlessness, but in continuing forward while carrying fear silently beside you. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed revisiting the cast of Foyle's War and learning what became of these remarkable performers over the years. Be sure to subscribe for more journeys into the stories behind television's most unforgettable classics.